and Chair of G7 Plus, Excellencies Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Head of Delegations of G7 Plus Member States, Excellencies Members of the National Parliament, Excellencies Members of the Ninth Constitutional Government, Excellency Dr. Helder da Costa, Secretary General of the G7 Plus and members of the Secretariat, Excellency Lieutenant General Domingos Raul Falu Ratalaek, Chief of the Defense Force, Excellency Commissioner of Timor-Leste National Police, distinguished ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of the United Nations agencies and international organizations, Excellencies, leaders and representatives of political parties, business associations, representatives of religious affiliations, civil society, private sector, academia and media, arts and culture associations, youth and women's associations, and beloved people of Timor-Leste. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and deep gratitude that I welcome you all to the 6th interministerial meeting of the G7 Plus in Dili, the capital city of the land of sunrise, Timor-Leste or Timor-Leste. A truly significant gathering made even more meaningful as it coincides with the 15th anniversary of the G7 Plus. Having traveled near and far, some of you from great distances, it is indeed a privilege to have you all here joining us on this important occasion. On behalf of the government and the people of Timor-Leste, I extend our warmest greetings to each of you, dear ministers, chiefs of delegation, and VIP delegates. I wish you all a pleasant and enjoyable stay. Please make yourself at home. Asesu votre maison. Today, we come together not only as representatives of our respective nations, but as members of a unique family, united by a shared history, common challenges, and above all, a collective aspiration to build lasting peace, resilience, and inclusive development in our countries. Over the past 15 years, the G7 Plus has emerged as a powerful voice for fragile and conflict-affected states, advocating for country-led solutions, mutual learning, and solidarity. We have demonstrated that despite the many challenges our nations face, we are not defined by fragility. We are defined by our determination, our hope, and our commitment to shaping a better future for our people. This meeting is both a moment of reflection and a call to action. As we celebrate the milestones we have achieved together, we must also look forward toward shaping the future of peace and resilience across our region and beyond. This 6th ministerial meeting underpins our commitment to mutual respect and collective solidarity, and it signals our dedication to continuously strengthen our coordination mechanisms, aiming at molding our path towards peace consolidation and state building, while promoting democratic principles and ensuring full respect for human values and the rule of law. This event also reaffirms our commitment to amplifying our voices within diplomacy and multilateralism, advocating for inclusive decision-making processes. Just last year, during the COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, the G7 Plus collective voice resonated worldwide with our joint letter sent to the UN Secretary General, being reported by noteworthy press agencies. G7 Plus role has been internationally recognized for securing the specific interests and needs of fragile and least developed countries for the matters of climate change. We have ensured that our concerns would no longer be overlooked in global discussions. The observer status we have secured at the United Nations is a testament to our growing influence and platform from which we can continue to advocate for the rights and interests of our member states, fostering a more equitable global dialogue. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, last year, Timor-Leste proudly celebrated its 25th anniversary of the popular consultation of August 1999. Commemorations took place nationwide, and the celebration were graced by the presence of distinguished guests, including high-level representatives from our bilateral and multilateral partners. His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, joined the Timorese people in this very historic celebration and recognized Timor-Leste's case as a successful one within the United Nations mission. At the same year, Timor-Leste had the blessings of welcoming His Holiness Pope Francis, whose visits underscored our nation's unwavering commitments to peace, freedom, tolerance, and fraternity. Over the past 2 years, several heads of states, chiefs of governments, and other prominent leaders from friendly countries have also visited Timor-Leste, receiving warm welcome from both our government and our people. This reality testifies the increasing level of political confidence and political stability in our country. As a dedicated member of the United Nations, Timor-Leste upholds a strong moral responsibility to contribute to conflict resolutions efforts within the international community through both bilateral and multilateral mechanisms. Excellencies, I would like to take this opportunity, and I believe I speak on behalf of all of us, to express our profound gratitude to His Excellency Kairala Xanana Guzmão, Prime Minister of Timor-Leste and eminent person to the G7+. This remarkable leader and notable hero put his own heart on the creation of the G7+, 15 years ago. Thank you, Your Excellency. Obrigado, Mombot. I also extend my heartfelt appreciation to His Excellency Dr. José Ramos Horta, President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, distinguished Nobel Peace Laureate and Special Envoy for the G7+. These two leaders have made invaluable contributions and offer unwavering support to the development and function of these organizations throughout the years. Their visionary leadership and commitment to peace and stability have been instrumental in shaping the G7+ into the influential body it is today. I would like to also pay a special tribute to the Republic of Sierra Leone for its dedicated chairmanship of the G7+ over the past decade. We also acknowledge the presence of Her Excellency Ms. Elizabeth Spear, Assistant Secretary General for Peace-Building Support in the United Nations Development of Political and Peace-Building Affairs. Your presence is very meaningful to us at this 6th ministerial meeting as we celebrate at the same time 15 years of the existence of the G7+. Thank you, Madam. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as host of this important ministerial meeting, I look forward to a constructive exchange of ideas and deep collaboration with my fellow ministers of foreign affairs. Together, we will continue to position the G7+ as a global actor with a powerful voice to consistently represent the countries affected by conflict and fragility. Let us live even more united in purpose and ambition, pushing for a stronger global commitment to peace, justice, and inclusive development. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est vraiment un honneur de vous avoir ici. Profitez bien de votre séjour à Dili. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Obrigado, Barak.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Timor-Leste, His Excellency, Mr. Benedito dos Santos Freitas.
Now the opening remarks by Her Excellency, Kenya Bele, the Minister of Planning and Economic Development of Sierra Leone and Chair of G7+.
Your Excellency, Jose Ramos Horta, President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste and Special Envoy of the G7+. Your Excellency, Kairila Shanana Gazmao, Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste and eminent person of the G7+. Your Excellency Maria Fernanda Lai, President of the National Parliament of Timor-Leste. Your Excellency Francisco Calbuadi Lai, Deputy Prime Minister, coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs and Minister of Tourism and Environment of Timor-Leste. Your Excellency Benedito Freitas, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Timor-Leste, Honorable Ministers of G7+ countries, distinguished members of the National Parliament of Timor-Leste, Her Excellency Mrs. Elizabeth Feha, Assistant Secretary General for the Peacebuilding Support Office of the United Nations, ambassadors, heads of agencies, members of civil society, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a privilege to welcome you at the 6th ministerial meeting of the G7+, where we mark 15 years of unity, resilience, and shared purpose. Today, we gather not only to reflect on our journey, but to forge a path forward in an increasingly complex and uncertain world. At the outset, I extend my deepest gratitude to the government and the people of Timor-Leste, the birthplace of the G7+, for their unwavering commitment to our cause. It was in this very city, in this very hall, that history was made. Timor-Leste, a nation that embodies resilience, has not only championed the G7+, but has supported it politically, morally, and financially. We owe our deepest appreciation to this island nation, whose journey from conflict to peace has been a beacon of hope for all of us. On behalf of the government and people of Sierra Leone, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for the trust you have placed in me to chair the G7+. It has been an honor and a privilege for Sierra Leone to hold this responsibility for the past 10 years, following the leadership of Timor-Leste and the Democratic Republic of Congo. I reaffirm our unwavering commitment to continue playing an even more active role in advancing G7+ advocacy, ensuring that the voices of the nations continue to shape global policies on peace building, state building, and development cooperation. I also take this opportunity to express my deep appreciation to the permanent mission of the G7+, missions to United Nations, for their tireless efforts in championing our agenda on the global stage. With the non-permanent membership of the UN Security Council, we will continue working with the following members, with fellow members in promoting the voice of the G7+ at the UN. Over the past 15 years, the G7+ has grown from a loose coalition to a formidable global force. Our advocacy and collective efforts has transformed how the world approaches peace building, state building, and development cooperation. No longer are our nations passive recipients of international decisions. We are shapers of global policies, amplifying the voices of conflict and fragile affected states on the world stage. Our impact is tangible. The adoption of Sustainable Development Goals 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, is a direct result of our persistent advocacy. This was not merely a policy victory, but a recognition of the central link between peace, stability, and sustainable development, an argument that has been central in the Dili Declaration that was adopted in this very hall. The Dili Declaration led to the establishment of the New Deal for Engagement in Fragile States, a groundbreaking framework that continues to be relevant today as it was at its inception. It underscored the reality that peace is not just a prerequisite for development, it is development. The principles of country ownership, mutual accountability, and context-driven solutions remain vital in shaping how fragile states navigate their paths towards resilience and prosperity. Furthermore, our observer status at United Nations has provided a formal seat at the table, allowing us to influence key global discussions and ensure the decisions affecting our countries are made with our input. Nothing about us without us. But beyond policies, the G7 Plus has become a mechanism for real cooperation. Through fragile to fragile collaboration, we have fostered peer learning, technical exchanges, and supported mechanisms to strengthen governance. We have shown that solutions to fragility do not come from outside, they come from within. These milestones would not have been possible without the unwavering dedication and collective efforts of all our fellow G7 Plus members. Our strength lies in solidarity, and together we will continue to champion peace, stability, and sustainable development for our nations and future generations. However, despite these milestones, our work is far from over. The world today is vastly different from when we first came together. We are witnessing a fragmented global order marked by shifting geopolitical dynamics, rising conflicts, climate disasters, economic instability, and rapid advancements in artificial intelligence. The risks to our nations have only multiplied. Once again, conflict-affected states, such as those in the G7 Plus, find themselves disproportionately bearing the consequences of the global crisis. Wars, we did not start. Climate change, we did not cause. And technological shifts, we are yet to benefit from. We must ask ourselves some hard questions. How can we safeguard stability in a world increasingly prone to war? How can we support each other in achieving peace in our countries? How can we ensure that global policies are conducive to our countries? And how can we further strengthen our unity as the G7 Plus? These are the questions that should guide our discussions over the next few days, the next 2 days. Now more than ever, we must stand united. The G7 Plus was born out of necessity, forged in the fire of conflict and hardship, and strengthened by our shared vision of a peaceful future and solidarity. We must continue to be the voice of the 1.5 billion people, the architects of our own future, and the champions of peace and stability. I urge all of you to actively participate, challenge conventional thinking, and propose bold solutions during this ministerial meeting. The world is watching. Our people are counting on us. Let us rise to the occasion. I thank you. Merci. Obrigado.
Thank you, the Madam Chair of G7 Plus, Her Excellency, Ms. Kenya Bele.
And now, video message by the UN United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres.
Excellencies, I'm pleased to convey my heartfelt greetings to the G7 Plus ministerial meeting as you mark your 15th anniversary in Dili, where your inspiring journey began. This city, like many of your countries, symbolizes both the wounds of conflict and the strength and resolve it takes to overcome them. And I was deeply moved by your wonderful hospitality as we marked the 25th anniversary of the independence referendum last year. Your people understand better than most the heavy cost of fragility and the daily work of rebuilding lives with dignity and hope. Your organization was born from that spirit of resilience and purpose, and the shared recognition that lasting peace is the foundation of progress. Over the years, you have championed cooperation, solidarity, and country-led solutions. You have also made a difference at the global level, including through your leadership in helping to secure Sustainable Development Goal 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions. Yet, fragilities are deepening around the world. Protracted conflicts, widening inequalities, and the raging climate crisis are fueling displacement and instability, with your nations often bearing the heaviest burden despite contributing least to this crisis. These plights cannot be ignored. The world cannot let your calls go unanswered. We need solidarity for solutions, and that is the spirit of the Pact for the Future that you helped shape. The Pact charts a course to reform peace and security cooperation, prioritizing conflict prevention, mediation, and peace building. It seeks to strengthen coordination, including South-South cooperation, to develop innovative approaches and expand opportunities for women and young people. The Pact also calls for reform of the global financial architecture through bigger and bolder multilateral development banks, effective debt relief for fragile economies, an annual SDG stimulus of $500 billion, and better access to concessional finance, recognizing vulnerabilities through the multidimensional vulnerability index. We must push the world to deliver on those commitments, including at the Forced Financing for Development conference in June. And we must push for climate justice. Many of you are on the front lines, watching as rising seas and extreme weather threaten lives and livelihoods. As we prepare for COP30, we need to see countries turn promises into action. Developed countries must scale up adaptation finance. We need meaningful contributions to the Fund for Loss and Damage. And we need confidence the $1.3 trillion will be delivered. Excellencies, your journey over the past 15 years shows us that solidarity is a common responsibility. As we work to tackle global challenges and implement the Pact for the Future, your voices will be vital to strengthen multilateralism, prevent conflict, and forge a future of dignity and sustainable development for all. Thank you.
And now,
Gardamor hanesa empresa privada ida hari iha tinariung ruah itu nebe hahu ho oficina carpintaria no tuirmai Gardamor security atu assegura segurança no confortabilidade cliente sira iha instituição estado no privado siranian. Departamento Internet, Gardamor Internet Service Provider, ka Gardamor ISP, ho di fornece internet nebe ho qualidade no foli nebe competitivo. Além de Gardamor mos ia empresa subsidiária selo, hanesan Rosi Tour and Travel, hanesan agência viagem Ironian, ho di facilita ita bosir ne viagem banasang nebede, tuiri ita bosir ne hakarak. Rosi Construção nebe halo serviço iha área construção nian. Rosi Fuel nebe oferece combustível ho qualidade para público. Atuhet ang oportunidade husi Gardamor LA, maidet ia edifício Gardamor Rua Avenida Presidente Nicolau Lobato Fatuhada Dili. Ka kontakto direta numero telemóvel 755 Ida Sia. Gardamor garanti for solução ba emahotu.
The video presentation of the G7 Plus.
These are the lands of resilience, nations rich in history, culture, and untapped potential. The people of these countries dream and aspire for peace, development, and prosperity, innovate and build, striving for a brighter future. Yet, for too long, these countries have been viewed through the lens of international security and conflict. They are often seen as problems to be managed, rather than partners in shaping solutions. Caught in the geopolitical and geoeconomic struggles of global and regional hegemons, these nations have had to navigate shifting alliances, economic dependencies, and foreign interventions, sometimes at great cost to their own stability and development. Born from the struggles of nations like the G7 Plus emerged in 2010 to challenge stereotypes. Fragility isn't failure, it's a call for context-driven solutions. Their mission, to reclaim ownership of their future, forging a path toward lasting peace, stability, and shared prosperity, built on the principles of solidarity and cooperation. To reshape the global narrative, ensuring that their realities are defined not by fragility, but by resilience, determination, and the aspirations of their people.
The reality of fragile countries must shape global discussions. For too long, decisions about our nations have been made without us. Policies imposed, priorities dictated, and aid delivered in ways that overlook our realities. But the G7 Plus made all efforts to change that. Together, we demand a new world order, one that values inclusion over exclusion, cooperation over conditionality, and justice over short-term fixes. A world where peace is not an afterthought, but the foundation of development.
By reframing fragility as multidimensional, spanning peace, institution, governance, justice, the G7 Plus shifted global policy. No more one-size-fits-all aid, only partnerships built on trust.
"15 years ago, we set out to change the way the world sees fragility. Today, we stand as proof that resilience, leadership, and solidarity can create lasting peace. The work is not done, but the path forward is clear."
the G7 Plus pioneered the New Deal, a blueprint for peace-first development. Its heartbeat, the peace-building and state-building goals, their crowning achievement, embedding peace into the Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 16, peace, justice, strong institutions, bears the G7 Plus's fingerprints.
If people can access justice, if they feel represented by strong and accountable institutions, they will turn less easily to violence.
Promoting peace and stability should continue to be central to implementing the SDGs, as violence and insecurity undermine development gains.
From Timor-Leste supporting Guinea-Bissau's elections, to Ebola crisis, to dialogue and reconciliations in Central African Republic, G7 Plus nations lead by example. Their mantra, nothing about us without us.
In that it demonstrates that we within the G7 Plus grouping are not waiting for the world to change, but are determined to change it for ourselves. And we will change it through unity, cooperation, and most of all, commitment. We will continue to push for a world where no country, especially fragile states, is left behind.
Through fragile to fragile cooperation, we have demonstrated that the best support comes from those who understand the challenge firsthand. Whether rebuilding governance, strengthening public finance, or sharing lessons on peace building, G7 Plus countries are standing together because who are better to help a nation heal and rebuild than those who have walked the same path. This is more than assistance. It is solidarity in action, a model where countries are not passive recipients, but active partners in shaping their own future.
The G7 Plus has transformed the global conversation on fragility. Their advocacy at the World Bank led to a 50% increase in funding for fragile states under IDA 17, securing more resources where they are needed most. For the first time, fragility was recognized as a priority in global financing. But their fight did not stop there. As climate crises, food insecurity, and debt burdens intensify, the G7 Plus continues to push for solutions tailored to fragile contexts. Their advocacy helped secure a dedicated WB Fragility, Conflict and Violence (FCV) strategy, ensuring that financing is not just available, but accessible.
For the first time, the Somali government has recruited over 6,000 public sector teachers so that we can improve, as the Prime Minister of Chad and others have identified, the quality of schooling of our children. For the first time, we're investing through country systems on health sector. Why am I highlighting these very, specific examples? It was the absence of country systems and viable state institutions that was the root cause of the vulnerabilities to begin with.
At the IMF, the G7 Plus has called for fairer debt relief mechanisms, ensuring that fragile states are not trapped in cycles of crisis. In a world where development finance often fails the most vulnerable, the G7 Plus is bridging the gaps, turning promises into action.
That we welcome first the strategy by the fund and the ongoing actions to better understand the root causes and drivers of risk and fragility, but also employ, I would call it tailored-made resilient solutions that will emphasize the partnership that we're trying to build, bringing your staff closer to our context on the ground, greater proximity in our countries I think is important, but also enhance your surveillance in lending and capacity building tools.
And we will continue to champion unity, reconciliation, conflict prevention, and climate action, and drive home the point I just made, that our nations refuse to be left behind.
In December 2019, the G7 Plus achieved a historic milestone, UN Observer status, a platform to amplify voices long ignored. For the first time, the voices of conflict-affected and fragile states were given a permanent platform at the world's most influential stage. No longer just subjects of debate, G7 plus countries are now active participants, shaping global policies that directly impact their futures.
The United Nations was founded on the principle of equality among nations, yet too often our countries have been sidelined. The G7 Plus is changing that. As a UN observer, we are no longer just seeking solutions. We are part of shaping them. Our voices, our experiences, and our aspirations must guide a more inclusive, just, and peaceful world.
We cannot overstate the importance of international laws and regulations that are meant to protect the basic rights of people of the UN to obtain peace, dignity, freedom, and prosperity. We see no clear pathway to sustainable peace or conflict prevention without respect and consideration for these shared rules and norms. Multilateral cooperation is indispensable to respect these tenets and treaties. Since increasing geopolitical geoeconomic fragmentation hinders the realization of these norms, we see an urgent need for inclusive multilateralism. This includes making reforms within the UN, especially the Security Council and the General Assembly.
Despite its progress, the conflict-affected nations continues to face challenges. Yet, the G7 Plus remains steadfast. Our pathway forward is clear. We will continue promoting solidarity as the only way to address common challenges, strengthen our collective voice, advocate for fairer global policies, and expand fragile-to-fragile cooperation. We will push for stronger commitments to peace and inclusive development, because no nation should be left behind in the pursuit of stability and prosperity.
The voices of fragile states can no longer be ignored. The G7 Plus is not just a platform. It is a movement for fairness, for justice, and for a global order that truly serves all nations.
But shaping the future requires a voice in the present. We demand seats at the table, from the UN Security Council to COP summits, because decisions about us must include us.
Our journey proves that fragile states are not defined by their challenges, but by their ability to rise above them. The world must recognize that peace and development go hand in hand, and the G7 Plus is leading that transformation.
As we mark 15 years of unity and resilience, our mission remains unchanged: to champion peace, to demand fairness, and to build a world where development is not a privilege, but a right for all nations. With solidarity, cooperation, innovation, and unshakable resolve, the G7 Plus is lighting the path, not just for our members, but for a world where no nation is left behind.
Gardamor hanesa empresa privada ida hari iha tina riuh ruah itu nebe hahu ho oficina carpintaria no tuirmai Gardamor security atu assegura segurança no confortabilidade cliente sira iha instituição estado no privado siranian. Departamento Internet, Gardamor Internet Service Provider, ka Gardamor ISP, ho di fornece internet nebe ho qualidade no foli nebe competitivo. Além de Gardamor mos ia empresa subsidiária selo, hanesan Rosi Tour and Travel, hanesan agência viagem Ironian, onde facilita ita bosir ne viagem banasang nebe, tuiri ita bosir ne hakarak. Rosi Construção nebe halo serviço iha área construção nian. Rosi Fuel nebe oferece combustível de qualidade para público. Atuhet ang oportunidade husi Gardamor LA, maidet ia edifício Gardamor Rua Avenida Presidente Nicolau Lobato Fatuhada Dili. Ka kontaktu direta número telemóvel 755 Ida Sia. Gardamor garante for solução ba emahotu.
Please be seated. Excellency Mombotsanana Guzmão, Prime Minister of Timor-Leste, Excellency Maria Fernanda Lai, President of the National Parliament, Excellency Deputy Prime Minister Francisco Abualdo Lai, Ministers and delegates from the G7 plus countries, members of the National Parliament of Timor-Leste, ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the United Nations, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning and welcome all to Dili, the birthplace of the G7+. It is with immense pleasure that I address you today at this sixth ministerial meeting of the G7+, an occasion that marks 15 years of our collective struggle, resilience, and determination. Your presence on our soil honors us and fills our homes with joy. When the G7 Plus was first established in 2010, I was serving as the second president of Timor-Leste, my first term in office. Our country had just emerged from the political instability, security crisis of 2006, a period of deep uncertainty and division. But our struggle for stability did not begin there. For 24 years, Timor-Leste endured occupation, conflict, immense hardship, leaving deep scars on our nation and people. Yet, despite this painful history, we chose a different path, not one of revenge, but of reconciliation, dialogue, national unity. The pursuit of truth and justice, combined with deliberate efforts to rebuild trust and heal divisions, allowed Timor-Leste to transition from conflict to peace and stability. Reconciliation was not merely a policy. It was a necessity for our survival as a nation. It required immense political will, courage, and above all, a collective determination to move forward rather than remain trapped by the wounds of the past. It was the vision and the leadership of Mombotsanana Guzmão that guided us to leave behind the bitterness of the past and embark on a new chapter of our destiny. Our country also gained valuable experience in managing international engagement, having hosted several United Nations missions that supported our transition to stability.
However, the ultimate responsibility for our peace and stability rested in our hands. The lesson we learned is clear. National ownership of the peace process is essential for its success. That vision of peace, tolerance, and unity has shaped our national pursuit ever since. Today, Timor-Leste is a peaceful nation, an active player in multilateralism, and a firm champion of global cooperation. We became the first country to officially adopt the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together. The document, allow me to divert a bit from the formal speech to explain a bit. The document on human fraternity for world peace and living together was crafted by His Holiness Papa Francisco and the Grand Imam, Professor Tayeb of Al-Azhar, Cairo, over a period of 1 year, leading to a world religious conference in Abu Dhabi with the presence of Papa Francisco and the Grand Imam. Then when the document was signed in 2019, and Timor-Leste in 2022 became the first country to officially, by an act of parliament, to adopt the document on human fraternity for all peace living together as a national document, and at the same time adapting it to our national curriculum. I continue. We are active members of the CPLP, G7, WTO, and soon to become members of ASEAN. All of this was made possible because of our unwavering commitment to reconciliation, a shared vision for prosperity. These lived experiences shape our conviction that fragile states must define their own path to peace. It was no surprise then that Timor-Leste joined hands with other nations to form the G7+, challenging the status quo of international engagement in conflict-affected countries. We understood that for peace to be sustainable, it must be driven by those who have lived through war, not imposed from outside. When the G7+ was conceived, I witnessed firsthand the aspiration of its founding nations, nations that had endured war, fragility, and underdevelopment. They came together with a bold vision to turn their shared struggles into a platform for transformation. We understood that the international system, as it was structured, had failed to address our challenges. The Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, had left many of us behind. The international aid system remained fragmented and ineffective, and conflicts continue to devastate countries like ours while global governance mechanisms remain indifferent. It was in response to this reality that G7+ was born, not as another diplomatic initiative, but as a movement. A movement to ensure that conflict-affected nations would no longer be passive recipients of external decisions, but active voices shaping their own futures. It is this vision that must continue to guide us as we face the future. Today, as the G7 group reflects on the collective journey, we must acknowledge that we live in an era of profound uncertainty. The global landscape is shifting rapidly, and not always in ways that favor peace and stability. Geopolitical tensions are escalating. Climate change is no longer a theoretical risk, but an existential crisis, particularly for vulnerable states. Economic disparities continue to widen, and once again, it's the nations of the global south, our nations, that bear the brunt of this crisis. The international system that was designed to safeguard peace, prevent wars, promote mutual respect, has failed to meet these challenges. Its failure is not accidental. It was embedded in its very foundation. The world order that emerged after the Second World War was designed by a handful of powerful states, structured to serve their interests, rather than to build a just and inclusive global system. It was established under the guise of universalism, but has often operated selectively, imposing rules on some while allowing others to break them with impunity. We have long been told that the world operates under, I quote, a rules-based order, end of quote. But we must ask, whose rules? Who truly abides by them? The reality is that the global system we rely on has been driven by power, not principles. And today, as power dynamics shift, the system is failing to adapt. This moment in history presents an opportunity to correct the imbalances of the past and reimagine an international order that is truly just, inclusive, and reflective of the voices of all nations, not just the powerful few. For too long, our countries have been caught in the middle of geopolitical rivalries that had little to do with us. While much of the world, particularly the global north, reaped the benefits of peace and economic progress, our nation became the fuel for a so-called Cold War, one that was anything but cold for us. We were pressured to take sides in conflicts we did not create, and too often our lands became the battleground for these contests of hegemony. Many of our countries are still struggling to recover from the scars of that era. The legacy of the Cold War lingers in places like Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, just to name a few. And now, once again, the world finds itself entangled in a cocktail of crises, marked by deepening divisions that only serve to exacerbate global challenges. The United Nations, the last resort for our countries, remain one of the most critical platforms for shaping global governance. Yet it continues to suffer from structural imbalances. The Security Council, in particular, remains dominated by a handful of nations, some of whom yield their power to obstruct meaningful reform and uphold their own strategic interests rather than global peace. I have long been an advocate for a more inclusive and representative UN, and I am encouraged that 2 of our G7 member states now serve as non-permanent members of the UN Security Council. But this is not enough. We must continue to demand a seat at the table. With observer status, G7 must actively push for the Security Council and other UN bodies to be more democratic and accountable. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, over the past 15 years, the G7 has worked relentlessly to amplify the voices of conflict-affected countries, ensuring that their challenges and aspirations are recognized on the global stage. It has championed peace and stability efforts rooted in national ownership, advocating for a shift away from externally imposed solutions towards approaches that truly reflect the needs of our nation. For this, I extend my deepest appreciation to the leaders of the G7+, its member states, and especially the G7 Secretariat, Dr. Elder Costa and his team for your tireless efforts in advancing this noble cause. Your dedication has made the G7+ not just a coalition, but a true force for change. But there is still much work to be done. As we look ahead, let us reaffirm our commitment to three fundamental objectives. First, we must continue to collectively advocate for reforms in international institutions. The rules that govern the global order must be rewritten to ensure they are inclusive, equitable, and reflective of the realities of all nations, especially those emerging from conflict and fragility. As a unified bloc, we must scale up our efforts to negotiate the rules of engagement, ensuring that our countries are not mere recipients of decisions made elsewhere, but active participants in shaping policies that impact us directly. The G7 Plus has already demonstrated its potential by gaining access to key policy forums, where it has positioned itself as a credible voice in discussions on peace building, development cooperation, trade, climate change, food security, and beyond. We must now build on this momentum, ensuring that our advocacy translates into real, lasting reforms that empower our nation to shape their own future. Second, we must strengthen our solidarity, because that is the true strength of G7+. Solidarity is not just a principle, it is the foundation of our collective resilience. It is what has allowed us to stand together and amplify our voices. Now more than ever, the G7 Plus must step up its efforts to support member states facing active conflict. We cannot stand by while our brothers and sisters in the DRC, Yemen, Haiti, South Sudan, Afghanistan, and other nations in the global south endure unimaginable suffering. Through peer-to-peer support, knowledge sharing, and initiatives like Fragile to Fragile cooperation, we have the power to build resilience from within. We have the experience, the wisdom, the determination to help each other overcome conflict and fragility. Third, we must promote national ownership in all aspects of peace and development. Sustainable progress can only be achieved when it is led by those who understand their own challenges best: our governments, our communities, our people. International support must align with national priorities, not dictate them. Let me highlight a platform that speaks directly to the priorities of this room: the Global Task Force on Social Protection for Nutrition, co-chaired by Timor-Leste and Chile, with the World Food Programme serving as its secretariat and backed by G7+. The GTF responds to a specific gap in the international architecture. While many platforms work on social protection, few place nutrition at the center, and even fewer respond directly to the unique challenges faced by the least and landlocked developed countries, LDCs, and fragile states. The GTF reframes the narrative. Fragile and least developed countries are not just support recipients. They are knowledge producers, policy leaders, and drivers of innovation, from school feeding and digital registries to maternal cash transfers and community-led targeting. At a time when global solidarity is fragile, the GTF is building bridges between local realities and global commitments, between technical innovation and political leadership, and between countries that are too often left behind and the policies meant to serve them. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, our work ahead is far from over, which demands even greater courage, persistence, and vision. We must not settle for the status quo. We must not allow ourselves to be marginalized in global decision-making. We must seize this moment to shape a new narrative, one in which our nations are recognized not as problems to be solved, but as partners in building a more just and peaceful world. I wish you all meaningful and productive discussions over the next 2 days. I hope that the organizers have reserved enough time for our visitors to have some quality time in visiting our city and les arrondissements, the areas around Dili. May your deliberation be constructive and impactful. Enjoy your stay in Dili. Thank you, merci, and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste and Special Envoy of the G7+, Dr. José Ramos Horta. And now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, next is our photo session. Please remain seated. For all the delegations and delegates, please check on the package that's been handed over to you. Inside there is a woven tie scarf to be used for our photo session. We're going to be calling from the back row. If your name is called, please make your way, and our LO, liaison officer, will guide you to the stage outside for the photo session. For the back row, Mr. Donald Arab, Mr. Abdul Karir Mohammed Yusuf, Ms. Marie Walenenia, Ms. Amisatu Kumba Kamara, Ms. Abby Elizabeth Kamara, Dr. Hermanson Makwengo, Mr. Jonathan Woodsworth, His Excellency Ambassador Serifo Balde, Mr. Serge Caleb Musasa Mbula, Mr. Rossi Paul Juanchite, Mr. Pierre Claver Gisabira. So inside the package there's also ties. Please grab the ties with you.
For the middle row, I would like to invite Mrs. Elizabeth Mary Spehar, Her Excellency Mr. Wahidullah Waisi, His Excellency Mr. Jeprin Maniratanga, His Excellency Mr. Marius Aristides Hoza, Mr. Zagna Moxia, Mr. Gaji Rabe,
His Excellency Mr. Samba Sane,
His Excellency Mr. Michael Imran Kanu, and Mr. Habib Mayer.
And finally, with respect, we'd like to invite also Dr. Helder da Costa, Her Excellency Mrs. Frances Piaget Algali, the Honorable Mr. Isaac Mohammed Mursal, Honorable Ms. Gracia Yamba Kazadi, Honorable Mr. Peter Chanel Agobaka, Her Excellency Mrs. Kenya Varlay, Chancellor Jerry Mobarai Arma, His Excellency Mr. Bendito Freitas, His Excellency Mambot Karala Shanala Guzmão, Her Excellency Dra. Maria Fernanda Lai, and His Excellency Dr. José Ramos Horta. The photo session will take 5 minutes. Please remain seated.
Ya, nebe maka para batamay proseso recuperação pós-conflito ninya. Ya, narang hanasang tatane kata di sete mais nebe maka surge representando esse grupo nação hitu